All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardinellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And it's official. Andrew Yang has made it onto the cover of Newsweek. And we're going to analyze a little bit what this means for his campaign. But before we do, we're going to listen to Cover of the Rolling Stone. I don't even remember the guy that made that song. But anyway, we have long talked about Andrew Yang being the digital internet candidate, being very popular with young people. And there's a lot of chatter as to what this could mean for Andrew Yang getting into other demographics in which he has not succeeded previously. So, Cody, tell us what's going on.
I guess it's a simple thing. Newsweek did a pretty, we'll go through the story a little bit in a minute here, but they did a pretty nice cover story on Andrew Yang. They kind of just asked him a few questions. The thing I thought was really cool, and I think it's really important I want to highlight about this, is what they talked about almost exclusively, and that was automation, jobs, how UBI fits into that. I think a lot of people kind of don't give him the time to explain himself, and they go, oh, he's the guy that's just giving you $1,000 a month. We'll just solve automation. And it's like, well, that isn't actually what he says at all, but if you don't listen to him and you only get a soundbite, so it was nice having someone sit down and say, so explain, how will it lead to job loss? How will we do something about it? What will your administration do? And we'll go through some of his answers I thought were pretty good, but that was pretty cool. That was what I did think. My big takeaway was, wow, he came out in a mainstream place and talked automation and UBI almost exclusively. He didn't do what he normally has to do, is say, oh, well, UBI relates to that, or, oh, you got to come out and just say, no, automation is doing this. I think, for example, he mentions, I don't want to get too far ahead, but he mentions creating a multiple departments in his administration to kind of oversee the transition, like a trucking czar, basically, to oversee the transition from predominantly human drivers to predominantly self-driving. Not saying smash the machines, but just saying let's make sure we transition smoothly. That was great. I love that message. I want him to get it out more. And really,
the SJW in me is angry that they had a racist headline of the top 500 STEM schools with an Asian man on the cover. I mean, the insinuation that Asians belong in STEM and are smarter than others, I just find woefully bigoted.
That's not even necessarily true.
No,
it's the thing.
I totally just came with it.
That's just an unrelated story. It's also in this
No, see, I'm just honing my skills. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I'm honing my dub skills.
Again, here's the article. It's for what? You planning on a run? Anyway, here's the article itself, published in Newsweek. Andrew Yang, math, jobs, and the robot future. So one of the questions I want to highlight here, which is really interesting, is when they actually talk about something else I didn't bring up earlier, was they talk a little bit about, he talks a little about education, but this is something he talks about more in longer format things, but when he gets to these mainstream media, like when he goes on Rachel Maddow for 9 minutes, it's no offense, just the way the platform works. You don't have the time to explain all this. So getting his answer, we'll come through this. I thought it was pretty cool. So he's his answers on these topics edited for Space, prepping sixth graders for a high tech present and future. He says, we need to make sure curricula actually reflects the America that children will be entering. Teaching to test doesn't work. Standardized tests are a very poor measurement of human worth and potential. You need to stop thinking about our education system as a checklist of tests completed and start looking at it as an opportunity to set up our children for a lifetime of learning and development. And then he goes on to more. He also talks about later about how necessarily college doesn't need to be overprescribed to kids.
Yeah, that was my favorite line in the whole thing.
That's what I think stood out to you.
And actually, I thought it was hilarious that on the cover they're saying the top 500 STEM schools, and then in the article Andrew Yang is like, yeah, we overprescribe schools, we overprescribe college.
Well, he does mention STEM specifically, saying STEM education is a great way to set children up to be lifelong learners.
The way we format their minds, to be lifelong learners.
He gives them a bit of a shout out too. He gets the good and the bad.
Yeah. So anyway, my point is what I liked about this is that it seems like his media persona is maturing from being a fringe Twitter and podcast only candidate to all of a sudden being literally on the cover of Newsweek. And that's a big deal. I mean, even Dave Chappelle, do you have the clip queued up for 12 minutes and 22 seconds? The one clip I showed you of Dave Chappelle? Oh, you don't have it? Okay, well, I could just tell you. In his original stand-up, Killing Him Softly, I think it was called, he was always making fun of white people, saying like that police brutality thing, y'all didn't believe us until it came out on the cover of Newsweek, and then you knew it was true, and that just goes to illustrate that in our pop culture, it's a very predominant periodical. And when you look up the data of the readership, it's a lot of good data of demographics he struggles with. Andrew Yang, of all the age demographics, Cody, what's his most popular demographic?
Oh, I would say like probably 18 to 30.
Yeah, exactly. Skewing very young people that are in their first 3 or 4 election cycles. Okay. Whereas Newsweek is extremely popular in the age bracket of 19 to 35, most likely closer to 19 to 35.
Well, it's like his age bracket, yeah.
Yeah, but also second most popular, okay, in the 35 to 44 age bracket. And they are on par with the average periodical age of readership all the way until they actually spike up, and also the 60 to 70 year olds. So it's a periodical that trends a lot more Gen X and Boomer than it does Gen Z and Zoomer. Okay. So I think this is good just because it hopefully it's driving people to take him more seriously, because as we know from branding, you have to see an image 7 times before you actually act on a call to action. In traditional marketing and branding, which is, all a political campaign is consistently marketing and branding yourself, data shows that somebody generally needs to see you in a credible environment 7 times, whether it's on the side of a bus or whether it's on the cover of a magazine or whether it's on an internet ad, wherever it is, they need to see it 7 times before they'll actually click on the click here or join now button that you offer. So the more Andrew Yang can get into these other types of media besides podcasts and besides Twitter polls and so on and so forth, the more he's establishing himself as a brand amongst these demographics he struggles with. Now, the only thing that Newsweek doesn't really bring to the table is females. It trends very, very high in male readership, about 10% more than most other periodicals of the same size.
I think it's almost like 70-30 by some estimates. It's radical.
Maybe in some certain weeks or something. All the data I saw was maybe at most like 60, but still it's predominantly male, similar to YouTube. And so maybe he's not, getting as much of the females, but he's definitely getting the older crowd in general. Okay, which can only be good for him. He still needs to
go on 60 Minutes, right? He still needs to go on 60 minutes.
Still needs to get 60 minutes.
He still needs to hit up GCN. There's still definitely some demographics he's missing, demos he's missing out on.
And he needs to get on my grandma's email chain. Once you're on the old people's email chain, that's when you know you made it.
But just bringing to the mainstream, here's another thing I really like. We talk about this a lot, but bringing to the mainstream this discussion right here I want to highlight. When they say, when other Democrats are suggesting a robot tax, are they wrong? And he says, I understand the desire to implement a robot tax, which meaning a levy on companies that benefit the most from automation and increase regulations in an attempt to slow down the transformation, but it's simply not going to work. Automating trucking alone is worth $168 billion a year, and there's no way you're going to be able to fight against companies that are competing for that pot of gold, nor should you want to. And then he goes, there's a moral argument for self-driving trucks and that they are made to be safer. But I think
it's a great point.
I like him mainstreaming the idea of look, why are we getting into a fight with these big corporations when we can address this just a smarter way? And that was the value-added tax, where he says, to ensure everyone shares in the gains from these technologies, we need to couple a value-added tax with a mechanism to return that money to the people, which would be the freedom dividend. This way, the American people can share in the benefits of every Amazon, the stump speech, basically. But this is the other big thing that I think doesn't get talked about enough in the mainstream, which is that VATs are also harder for corporations to avoid, and that, he skips it. The U.S. is one of the few countries that doesn't implement a VAT, but the countries that already have a VAT are much better equipped to capture this value. I think the bigger thing here is the notion that a value-added tax, which I guess he addressed earlier on, being consumption-based, it impacts everybody in some way, but it impacts the bigger pot of gold, so to speak, it takes the most money from. And I think that is the part of that's the discussion. People are like, this freedom dividend, how is he going to pay for it? It doesn't make any sense. A tax? Oh, you're going to tax me. It's like, well, hold on. It's mostly taxing people buying Lamborghinis and, shipping 500 Beat headphones every minute. They're getting hit really hard, but the average person who doesn't spend that much needless expenses actually is not going to get hit very hard. It's kind of like the idea of taxing transactions on stock exchanges. It's only going to impact rich people. No one else is realistically trading stock on a daily basis.
Hey, wait a second. I saw the app. I'm doing it
Sorry.
with Bitcoin. No,
Sorry,
I'm
I
just
forgot.
kidding.
Yeah, the Robin Hood. What is
Well,
it?
you know what's kind of funny about this whole article too is being a Hollywood guy. One of the things that got me attracted to movies and studying movies was actually the demystification of the movie making process. And I have to say, they totally demystified their cover. Cody, can you show, as much as I love like good photography and as much as I shouldn't, let myself get fooled. Like if you look at the cover, can you pull up the cover?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the cover. He's looking great, big blue background. You're thinking it's in some awesome controlled environment. And then when you scroll down, what's the controlled environment?
That's all you need.
They're just out in front of a C-stand.
That's all you need.
That was actually kind of a little bit disappointing of a shot. I almost wish they hadn't included it because it's just a reminder that we're all getting fooled, that the media is just fooling us. We're thinking come on. There's an air of grandeur there.
With Photoshop, we could take this picture, cut him out from this background, and stick him in Peru. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's kind of like just how they do these,
And I do have to say, Cody, as I'm making my next commentary before we wrap up here, I was a little bit disappointed. I saw you cringe and question my cover of the Rolling Stone pop culture reference. I'm surprised, man.
Hold on.
Because you're a total weird music guru. What?
I question the.
I just sent you the YouTube link if you want to play it just for a second.
Well, I don't think YouTube wants us to. It's the only problem. Or whoever holds the rights to the song, perhaps, is my largest point. No, I would push back that would be considered pop culture. That might be considered like. What's a better word for it?
So you and I just have to, when we're going with a beat on cover of the Rolling Stone by Dr. Hook, we just got to say Newsweek instead of Rolling Stone, right? Would that fool the algorithm?
You've literally lost me. I don't even know what you're talking. I don't know what we're talking about.
Okay, well look, for those of you guys that aren't aware, you got to look up a song by Dr. Hook called Cover of the Rolling Stone, in which they joke about how you're not a real rock and roll band until you've made it onto the cover of the Rolling Stone. So they hadn't been on the cover of the Rolling Stone yet, and they made a song about not being a real rock band because they weren't on the cover of the Rolling Stone, which made it so that Rolling Stone put them on the cover of the Rolling Stone, and it became, like the number one hit for like 6 weeks or whatever. It was like way back in the 70s or something. But it's a totally hilarious song, and it put Dr. Hook and the whole band on the cover of the Rolling Stone.
See, dude, that's like classic stuff. That is not. I push back that's like pop culture. That's not pop culture.
Yeah, what? It's just not pop culture in a different decade than you specialize in. That's all. You know what I'm saying?
Different decade. Hold on, man. We talking pop culture in a different
century,
different generation. Yeah, exactly. different century, man.
All right,
who was president at this time?
Oh gosh, it was probably like Nixon or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It predates me, man.
Yeah, pop culture. Those kids and their Rolling Stone
I had a classic
magazine.
rock dad. Okay, look, my father worked at the Salt Palace in Salt Lake City as who's the guy that brings all of the equipment in for rock and roll bands? The roadie. No, the roadie is the person that tours with him. But anyway, he worked at a big rock and roll venue, saw all the big bands that came through Salt Lake City. So I got a very healthy upbringing on classic rock trivia.
But
so
it's
anyway,
not even the same magazine.
No, it's not the same magazine, but the idea is the same. That these guys were not rapping, but these guys were singing about how you're not a real rock band until you make it on the cover of the Rolling Stone. I would submit that for a large portion of our electorate, you're not a real candidate until you've made it onto the cover of Newsweek. Wow. And you're not a real president until you made it onto the cover of Time. Hey, so it's like, boom, there's these measurable quantifiers.
Wow. According to Cardinals, does Newsweek want can we like reach out to Newsweek and tell them that Cardin just said you're not a real candidate until you appear on the cover of Newsweek? I hadn't heard that before. It's a new one.
Maybe it's like you're not an influencer on YouTube until you reach 10,000 subs.
No, maybe it's some weird like Carter, era reference. I'm not kidding. I don't know. I just thought that Newsweek. I thought Newsweek was a magazine that basically burned to the ground and was rebuilt a couple of years ago. That's what I thought Newsweek was, but maybe I'm wrong.
That's funny, man. Hey, I used to have a subscription to Newsweek, all right?
Used to. I wonder why. What happened? Why'd you stop?
I moved to college.
Oh, so we're talking used to like decades. Like used to in like 1997. Cool, got it.
Hey, I'm cool, Cody.
Okay, got it. No,
I'm cool.
It's liberal.
I have a TikTok account and you don't, so there.
Pretty liberal use of the word used to.
Used to. So anyway, let us know what you guys think. Do you think this is a step forward? Do you think that this is just treading water? What do you guys think? Our impression is, at least my impression is, that this is a good step forward for Andrew Yang. It shows that something's going right if they're inviting him to appear on the cover of Newsweek. and he's starting to penetrate and make inroads into the demographics that he has previously struggled with. So we think this is a good thing. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Like the video if you haven't had a chance yet. Please subscribe to the channel if you like us. If you want to contribute, make sure you check out the PayPal link in the description, or you purchase a hat at problemsolverpolitics.com, and keep those voicemails coming. We love answering voicemails at 1-833-PSP radio. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.